Welcome to Dadograms. I'm Jason M. Garrett, and if you caught my last Dadogram, you heard how doing the hard things as a parent, early and often, can help shape your child's brain, their habits, and their future success. But today I want to take that idea a step further, because there's something else all of you parents out there need to be doing for your kids beyond the hard things. It's something that shapes your kids quietly, daily, and permanently. And it's not your words, it's not your rules, it's not your intentions, it's your example. Because whether they say it or not, your kids are always watching you closely. They're listening to how you speak when you're tired. They're noticing how you treat people when you're angry. They're watching how you deal with failure and how you respond to success. They're quietly soaking up all that matters to you because that tells them what should matter to them. Now, you may have heard the old line, children may fail to listen to their parents, but they never fail to imitate them. Well, that's more than a clever quote. It's a warning, but it's also an opportunity. Because if they're going to imitate you, why not give them something worth imitating? And that's exactly what I'm talking about in this Dadogram. Wherever you look, you'll see examples of this playing out all around you, right before your eyes, from everyday families to the highest levels of power. Let me tell you of two legends who didn't start from nothing. They had a head start and they used it well. And before I begin, I know there are a lot of modern day examples that I could use, but I always like to teach a little history to my kids whenever I get a chance, so I ask that you bear with me. Now, you may remember from history General Douglas MacArthur, one of the most decorated generals in American history. He led Allied forces in the Pacific during World War II, accepted Japan's surrender, and even served as military governor during the rebuilding of post-war Japan. His leadership helped shape the course of the 20th century. But here's the thing. His courage and conviction didn't just appear out of nowhere. His father, Major General Arthur MacArthur Jr., was a Medal of Honor recipient from the Civil War. So Douglas grew up in a home where words like duty, sacrifice, and service weren't just part of patriotic speeches. They were the real thing. They had been lived. His father had bled for them. Douglas didn't just hear about honor. He watched it, breathed it, witnessed it. And when his own moment came on the beaches and in the bunkers and under enemy fire, he rose to it. Because he had already seen what character looked like up close. That's not genetics. That's legacy. And besides ultimately becoming a 5-star general, Douglas was nominated twice for the Medal of Honor and received it once, just like his father received it. One of only 2 father and son pairs that have ever done that. Pretty impressive, eh? Now, how about John F. Kennedy, one of the most iconic American presidents of the 20th century? A war hero, a senator, a president. He gave us the Peace Corps. He gave us the moonshot. And he gave us the words that still challenge people to this day. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. But again, those ideals weren't invented the day he took office. They were modeled at home. His father, Joseph Kennedy Sr., built an empire of business, served as U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom, and raised his children to believe that duty and boldness were part of their inheritance. JFK's older brother, Joe Jr., volunteered for a dangerous mission in World War II and died in service. His sister Eunice would go on to found the Special Olympics. Public service wasn't a photo op for the Kennedy family, it was expected. So when John F. Kennedy found himself in the White House, staring down the Soviets during the Cuban Missile Crisis, or trying to rally a divided nation around civil rights or space exploration, he didn't have to invent a sense of mission. He just had to continue it. Make sense? Now listen. You don't have to be a Medal of Honor winner or a president of the United States to give your kids that kind of model. You don't need medals or microphones or millions. These are just examples. But what they do need is simply this. They need intentionality. You need to live your life with the quiet awareness that little eyes are watching you every day, noticing everything you do, planning to measure up to you, mimicking you. And that is a tremendous responsibility for parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles to live up to, especially if they're unaware of the true impact of their example. While the best and most wonderful examples can give a child an edge in life, bad examples can hurt them even more. And I've seen some pretty jarring examples of bad modeling in my time. There's one that stuck with me from many, many years ago. It happened when my wife and I were at an outdoor restaurant with our brand new daughter. She was all of maybe 2 years old at the time. There was a family nearby, and with the outdoor music, this dad was dancing with his two daughters, and they were maybe 4 and 6 years old each. The music was loud, the girls were laughing, and mom was smiling and snapping pictures. And at first it was a beautiful moment, just the kind of thing you would expect a great dad to be doing. But then the dad turned towards us, and I saw his shirt, and everything changed. On the front of his shirt was a silhouette of a nude woman dancing on a pole, a blatant advertisement for his favorite strip club. And just like that, the moment shifted. Because whether he realized it or not, that dad was sending a message to his girls, not with his words, but with his choices. Imagine the contradiction. Joyfully dancing with your daughters while literally wearing a billboard that objectifies women. What do you think he was teaching his girls? Maybe one day that same dad will be heartbroken to find out his daughters are making choices that he would have never wanted for them to make. You know, earning money the hard way on the stage. But here's the truth. He already started showing them the way by what he valued, by what he was advertising right there on that shirt. That's how subtle and serious our influence can be on our children. Kids notice the little things, and over time, those little things become big things in their hearts and their minds. And sadly, the numbers back this up. Teens whose parents smoke, 2 to 4 times more likely to smoke themselves. Children of alcoholics, 4 times more likely to develop alcohol disorders. Domestic violence, 2 to 3 times more likely to repeat. Drug use, 3 to 5 times. And obesity and poor nutrition, yep, that's passed down by example too. Those kids of obese and overeating parents are 2 to 4 times more likely to turn out the same way. It goes on and on like that. There's a list of statistics a mile long you could look up if you'd like. Pretty sad, isn't it? So remember, not only do you have to be a great example for your children, you need to avoid being a bad example too. All of us parents need to take a hard look at ourselves to decide, are we doing the things we want our children to see and ultimately imitate? And are we avoiding the things we don't want them to see and imitate? If you're not doing it right, it's time to change, to give your children the best shot at winning in life. So think of all the ways it matters. You want your kids to handle failure with grace? Let them see you take responsibility for your own mistakes. If you want your kids to speak the truth, even when it's hard, let them see you tell the truth when it costs you something. You want them to be kind? Be kind when no one's watching. You want them to be dreaming big? Let them see you chase something ambitious and not quit when the going gets tough. And if you don't want your daughters working in a strip club, well, I think you get the point. Because at the end of the day, parenting isn't just teaching, it's modeling. Modeling the good by doing it, and shielding them from the bad by not doing it. And I know that's why I was able to achieve so much in life, and so did my wife. We had incredible examples in our own parents. Strong role models from our parents played a key role in the direction we took in life. It's like that old saying, the apple didn't fall far from the tree for either of us. My dad chased his boyhood dream of becoming a train engineer. As a little boy, I saw how hard he worked to get that job. A job that he kept, oh, by the way, for decades before retiring from Burlington Northern and Santa Fe after 43 years. And that inspired me to chase my own dream to fly for the Navy until I retired after 28 years. And my mother was a business owner. And now that I'm out of the Navy, my career's done, what do you think I do now? I own businesses. And my wife's story is even more classic. Both of her parents were in the Navy. Her mom was a Navy nurse, and her dad was an A-4 pilot in Vietnam and went on to fly the A-7. Some truly inspiring stuff. So it made all the sense in the world that when she grew up, she wanted to fly Navy too. And she did until she retired. We both had strong role models in our parents who we sought to measure up to. And all things considered, I think we did a pretty good job of it so far. So what this all means is if you're a parent, you are your kid's first hero, their first leader, their first mirror. They won't always do what you say, but they will almost always absorb who you are. And that means the way you carry yourself when you're stressed, the way you talk about your spouse when they're not in the room, the way you handle money, the way you work, the way you serve. It's all being recorded in their little minds, in their hearts, and eventually It'll be reflected in their lives. So what do you want that playback to sound like? What kind of man or woman do you hope your child ultimately becomes? Because that's the question that really matters. Not what school they attended or what sports they played or how many trophies they've got on the shelf. No, the real question is, what kind of person are they becoming? And what are they really learning by watching you? If you want to raise your children with courage, conviction, and character, we have to live our lives with those same things ourselves. Let's be the kind of adults our kids are proud to someday copy. Now, that doesn't mean that we're perfect, but it does mean we're consistent, intentional in our actions. It means we're purposeful, honest, and always in pursuit of something meaningful. Because when they see us dreaming big and working hard, serving others and standing tall, they'll start to believe that they can do the same. That's leadership. That's parenting. That's legacy. And it starts with you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this Dadogram. If you learned something useful in this one, go back and listen to a previous Dadogram, because none of them have an expiration date. They're evergreen. They will be as useful to you now as when they were recorded, and they'll be just as relevant in the decades to come. So thanks again, and remember, your children are watching. Be the best example you can be for them.